everybody, my name is Victoria and you are here for my August wrap-up. I'm going to attempt something slightly different this month and you can let me know if you like it or not, but I've decided to combine my books that I read also with some movies and TV and music, and I hope you like it. I'm a little worried this video is going to be extra long and that will be a problem, but you know, we're just gonna experiment. I've been wanting to talk about the things that I watch and listen to. However, I haven't really known if I want to make it one video, so we're gonna try it and see if we like it. If we don't like it, we can change it. The month of August was pretty crazy for me, but I am actually surprised at how much I did read. However, audiobooks really saved my butt this month because without them, I probably would have read like 2 or 3 books. And instead I read 6 books. I did participate in the Newt's readathon for the month of August, but I did not complete all my challenges. I got through 6 out of 7 books that I needed to read, so I was so close and I'm sad. But honestly, I am shocked that I read 6 books. The first book that I completed was the 4th book in the Wizard of Earthsea series, and that is entitled Tehanu, and that's by Ursula Guin. This book disappointed me, to be quite honest. This comes at a weird place in the series, and I actually was excited about following the character that we were following. In the second book of Wizard of Earthsea, we follow a character named Tenar in her younger years, and this book follows her in her later middle-aged to elderly years. We also see our male main character come back, Ged, and he's an elderly man at this point. What I'm finding happens sometimes with Ursula Guin is that her philosophy gets heavier than the story, and it becomes just really obvious of what she's trying to say. And in this book, it's feminism in particular, and I have nothing against feminism, but I thought it took over the fantasy story, and I think I'm learning I just wasn't looking for a book like that. This book captured my attention until about maybe 3/4 of the way through, and then I just felt like it was taking a weird turn, and I was very confused at the end of kind of how things finished, and I just thought we could have done more with some of the interesting elements of the story. There's a child that we follow in this book as well, and this child has been abused and possibly has powers and is sort of enshrouded in mystery throughout the book. And I thought we didn't really spend enough time with that character and developing that story. Instead, the focus became more on Tenar and the ways in which she felt oppressed by male society, which I'm sure a lot of people are going to really like about this book, but for me, it just didn't do it. I ended up giving this book 2 stars. And now for something completely different. Next, I picked up Anonymous Rex by Eric Garcia. This was a crazy book, and I knew it was going to be crazy, but it was even crazier while reading it. But this book is about a washed up PI, and he's really down on his luck when we meet him. Something happened with his last case and no one will hire him anymore, and so when we meet him, his electricity is being shut off and he is just kind of trying to take whatever random jobs he can. But the twist is that this undercover PI is a actual velociraptor, and he has a human suit, and he puts on his human suit, and then nobody knows he's a velociraptor when he's in his human suit. And as it turns out, there's a whole society of dinosaurs that live among us, and they have like a secret underground dinosaur society, and they all have human suits. So you never know if you're gonna meet a human or a dinosaur. This book plays around a lot with the detective story tropes, and it does so unapologetically, and that was really fun. What got weird was some of just the main mystery and storyline involves a lot of sex scenes between dinosaur and human, and that I wasn't expecting at all, and I don't think I liked it very much, so that was weird. I could kind of see where things were going. It is very predictable. No surprises really if you've ever seen a detective story or mystery or read a mystery. It's very predictable in some ways, but in other ways it was gross, and that just was really odd to me. This is actually a series, and there's 2 more books in the series. I don't know if I'll be picking them up. I'm almost inclined to maybe try the second book, but at the same time, I have a feeling that these just aren't for me. Another thing with this book is that you have to suspend your disbelief that dinosaurs can just fit in human suits and be like the same size as humans. I don't know. It's a lot to wrap your mind around. I think it's a hilarious concept, and I like the idea of dinosaurs living among us and they never went extinct, and they just don't want us to know that they went extinct. But I don't know, this was weird. After that, I felt like I needed something on a completely different spectrum, and so I picked up my reread for the month, which was A Wrinkle in Time by Madeleine. This, surprisingly, I thought I was going to love because I had rated it 5 stars on Goodreads, and it was one of my favorite books as a kid. I think I read it several times as a kid. Reading it as an adult was a really different experience. I still like it. However, it was very abstract, and some of the concepts, even as an adult, I was having a hard time understanding. Part of the problem is I listened to this on audio, and I don't do a great job paying attention to audio because I'm always driving or doing something else with my hands, cleaning maybe. Particularly this month, I've been really swamped at work. It's just a really stressful time for me right now, and so while I'm listening to an audiobook, my brain starts to wander and think about work-related things. So going forward, I think I need to give this series a fair chance with reading it with my eyes instead of my ears, because I know this about myself. I never have as much fun reading it with my ears. So we'll give this another go, maybe another time, but I still gave it 4 stars. This book is a young adult classic, and it really plays around with science and religion, and it also has just some really strong female characters. Our main character, Meg, is good at math and science, and so this was really good for that reason. I really liked the character of Meg and how strong she was and her whole family. There were just some annoying things about our main character. Meg seemed to complain and be really dramatic, and it's not unrealistic because I work with kids every day and they're dramatic. They can be very dramatic. So it wasn't unrealistic, but it just was a little bit grating at times, and so that's kind of my only complaint. So I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. And yeah, I do think I need to read it with my eyes again someday, but fascinating story, such an original concept. I still love this, and I can't wait to read the rest of the series. Next, I picked up the 6th volume of Fruits Basket, the collector's edition, and this one I really liked a lot. I think I gave it 5 stars. Did I give it 5 stars on Goodreads? I might have. But I really liked this one a lot. It was more fast-paced and interesting. I felt like the volume before, we kind of spent a lot of time just like hanging out with the characters and nothing was happening. And this was more interesting, more development and backstory for the characters, which always happens in every volume. But this one in particular, I thought was just really good. And it was just a really fun read. So this volume is really helping me to push through and continue on with the series. For a little while, I wasn't sure I was going to keep reading Fruits Basket, but after this one, I'm like, yeah, let's keep going. The next book I read was the 4th book in the Percy Jackson and the Olympian series, which is The Battle of the Labyrinth. This one I also did the audiobook for, and again, I think I just suck at listening to audiobooks because I didn't like this one as much as I thought I was going to. I think I liked this book better than the 3rd one. This one just had a more interesting story. The whole labyrinth concept was really great, and the Greek gods that we met were really interesting, and I enjoyed reminiscing about some of the Greek gods that I had kind of forgotten about and remembering their legends and their stories. The nice thing about this 4th book too is that we get a lot of answers. Some big things get resolved and happen, and that was really cool to see. I did feel like the 3rd book was just a bridge into this one, and like nothing really super important happened in the 3rd book, but I mean a little bit kind of. But this one was a lot more containing big events, and so I appreciated that about this one. There was something repetitive feeling about this though, which made me not give it 5 stars and dropped it down to 4 stars. Something about the style feels repetitive at this point, and I'm almost waiting for Riordan to change it up a little. It's not that I don't like the jokes. I think the humor is still on point for a middle grade series, but there's just something kind of repetitive feeling about it. I don't know how else to describe it. Nonetheless, next month I'm gonna get to that 5th book. Well, hopefully next month. Next couple months I'll get to the 5th book, and I'm gonna be wrapping up this series, so yay, I'm excited. And then I'll just mention really briefly, I did start The Nightingale by Kristin, and I'm currently in the middle of this one. I'm liking it so far. I haven't read a good historical fiction in quite some time, and I just really am loving the feel and the writing style. The descriptions and the setting is just really well fleshed out, and Kristin does a great job of just painting a picture of the times, and I'm really interested to see where this story goes. It follows 2 sisters in France at the beginning of World War II. I'm only like 75 pages in or so I can even barely tell you more than that, but I really like the whole ambiance and feel that this book has set up. Hello, it is slightly further into the future Victoria popping in, because I realized I forgot to mention a book that I read. That was Gods of Jade and Shadow by Sylvia Moreno-Garcia. Ooh, did I get that name right? Not sure. Might have flipped those names around. I'm not sure, but yeah, I'm making dinner right now, and I just remembered. It just occurred to me that I didn't talk about this book. So Gods of Jade and Shadow was my new release that I read of the month, and it had a really interesting start and an interesting premise. Again, I read it on audiobook, so I might be tainted by that experience, because the audiobook was okay. It wasn't fantastic. It was read in sort of a flat manner. The narrator wasn't like super dynamic and interesting, but I felt like the story was awesome. But the style that it was told was in a slightly odd way. Sorry, this is becoming a reading vlog, isn't it? It's about a young girl named Cassiopeia, and Cassiopeia is sort of a Cinderella type figure, and one day she stumbles across this box in her grandfather's bedroom. Her grandfather is kind of a terrible person. He's a little bit abusive and takes advantage of her, but she finds this box that contains some mysterious items, and basically what happens is she resurrects a Mayan god, and she becomes attached to him. So this Mayan god has been overthrown by his brother, and he is the god of death, or the god of Shilbaba, and the god of death has been overthrown by his brother. Cassiopeia basically gets enlisted to help him to kind of regain his throne, regain his power. Like I said, it had a great setting. It was set in the 1920s, and it had that sort of jazz age feel going on. They talked a lot about the automobiles and the fashion of the decade, and so that was kind of fun. The way the narrative was told was very much in like an oral storytelling kind of folktale style, and that didn't always work for me. But again, I did it via audiobook, and so I am not good at listening to audiobooks. It's one that I would like to try again in the future. I ended up giving it 3 stars just because at the end I just kind of felt a little bit just in the middle of the road about it. I liked a lot of things about it, but it didn't grab me. The story was not super well told, I thought, but that's just my opinion. So anyways, popping back in, go back to the video, and forgive me for forgetting about that book. Next, I would like to discuss some movies that I watched in the month of August, and I would like to start with talking about The Lion King. I am really not a fan of the whole live-action Disney thing that they are doing, and I do firmly believe that it is just a ploy to get more money for Disney. However, I keep going. I'm part of the problem. I understand that. So I'm a big fat hypocrite because I went to see the movie, but I didn't love this adaptation. Don't kill me, but I didn't. I feel like the live actions are suffering from the same problems, and one of those problems is that they just lack the heart of the originals. they lack the spirit of the originals. I felt like this movie was really just trying to wow us with its amazing CGI and special effects, and I didn't feel like I was connected, and I didn't care as much as I did in the cartoon. And I think that is just what happens with CGI, because the more real you make it look, the less you can do things with the facial expressions. And something that the animated cartoon does really well is you can see the facial expressions and the emotions on the face of the lions and the characters. In the CGI version, they're so worried about making it look real that you lose that. So, I don't know. I'm just not loving the live action thing. I would give this movie a C. After watching The Lion King, I was reminiscent for the Disney that I know and love, and I had been also really disappointed by the Aladdin live action, which I thought was a hot, steaming pile of poop. And so I decided to watch the cartoon, which I had bought many years ago and just had never taken out of the shrink wrap. And so my husband and I, we sat down to watch the original Aladdin cartoon, and it was magical. And there's just no comparison to it. You can't redo that. You can't redo what's already amazing. Stop, Disney. Stop trying to redo what you already did, because it was fine the first time. And then the third movie that I would like to mention was Yesterday. And I loved this movie. If you don't know about this movie, it's about a young man who gets hit by a bus right in the beginning of the movie. And when he comes to, he lives in a world where everyone has forgotten about the Beatles. And so he himself is a singer-songwriter, and he just starts playing a Beatles song, and the people around him are going, "Oh my gosh, what is that? That's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard." And he thinks they're joking, and then realizes that everyone is serious and no one remembers the Beatles. In a world of remakes, this was so nice. It was something I hadn't seen before, an original concept. It's very much kind of like a Groundhog Day premise, but with a different spin, and I adored it. It was so good. And also, it has Beatles music throughout it, and that's, you just can't go wrong. Ugh, it was so good. You guys should see this if you haven't seen it. This movie gets an A from me. My husband and I have been working our way through The Office again as a rewatch. It's only the second time I've rewatched The Office, but I think it might be his third time. But we are on season 6 right now, and it is a weird season. We still have the characters that we know and love, but you can tell towards the end of the season that things are changing for the TV show, and it's starting to get a little bit of that weird vibe that it gets toward the end, but it's still a really good season. I liked this season a lot. I also finished watching Instant Hotel season 2. This is a guilty pleasure show for me, for sure. This is about a bunch of people who are competing to have the best Airbnb, and then their Airbnb, if they win, they get a $100,000 prize. The show is an Australian show, so everything is set in Australia. So part of the fun of the show is getting to see all the different places in Australia. I've never been, so I know nothing about the landscape. And so it's pretty cool to see the beachfront houses, and then you have like the outback houses, and it's been fun. Of course, it has its silly drama like a reality show does, and so that gets kind of annoying, but this was a fun show. My husband and I sat down and watched Fyre Festival. Wow, that was disturbing and unbelievable. The Fyre Festival is about a man who historically and famously conned a bunch of rich people out of their money and delivered basically nothing to them. He basically got all of these supermodels and rich people to come to this island, and he promised them like a resort stay, and they were going to have a music festival, and then they got there and it was not finished, and it was a huge mess, and he had their money already. The most interesting commentary in this documentary was the fact that social media can be used to con people, and it was shocking at how many people believed him with just some very vague pictures on social media, and people just trusted it blindly, and it was just a testament to one of the many evils and powers of social media. I also started watching the documentary about Vietnam by Ken Burns. I've only seen one episode. Each episode is like a movie length, and so it's going to take me quite some time to get through it. But the reason I started watching the Vietnam documentary was because I realized I don't know very much about it. Here in America, it was definitely something that was skimmed over in my education as a child growing up in the 90s, and we weren't ready to talk about Vietnam. I would say America in many ways is still not ready to talk about Vietnam, and so I didn't know really anything about it, and so I am trying to educate myself. And then to rewind that further, the reason I was interested in Vietnam and learning more about it was because I also saw the musical Miss Saigon this month, at the very beginning of the month, and I've been listening to the soundtrack nonstop. I've loved this soundtrack for years, but I had just never seen it produced anywhere near me. And then it came to the Pantages here in LA, and so I had to go see it. It was amazing, and even my husband loved it, and he does not like musicals. I dragged him to it, but it was a great story and beautiful music, and I already knew it was beautiful music, but I have been listening to Miss Saigon nonstop all month. I've also been listening to the Reign of Kindo, and this is a band that we also saw this month live, and they are very much sort of underground. Not a lot of people know about them. They have a sort of following, and the following is a lot of music nerds like myself, but please check them out. They deserve all the hype, and they have very few followers, and they just kind of release one song a month for their Patreons. They are fantastic, and they are very much a sort of jazz fusion, progressive rock fusion. I don't know how else to describe it, but listen to them because they're fantastic. I love the main lead singer. And then the live show that we went to, again, I just felt like it was not well attended, and they put on an amazing show. Just an amazing show. We only paid $12 for the tickets for this band, and we saw like 4 bands for those $12, and that's a crime. Okay, it's a crime. Go follow them now and give them some love. And then the third person that I've been listening to nonstop has been John Mayer, because so excited. I'm gonna go see John Mayer, wait, next month? No. Yes, next month. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna see him in September. Sorry, I just realized that. I love John Mayer, and I don't really care who knows it. I know he's a little bit of a jerk in the media, but I don't care. I love his music. I'm guilty. I can't do anything about it. I can't help myself. Particularly, I've been impressed with his new stuff. I think it's really hip, and he's just kind of going in like a really fresh kind of upbeat place, and I like that. I like upbeat John Mayer. If you've never seen his music video for New Light, it's pretty hilarious because he filmed this in a karaoke studio, and so he just used a bunch of stock backgrounds for his music video, and it's hilarious. I'm sure you've probably already seen it, but if you haven't, go watch the music video for New Light. It's pretty funny. Alright, that is everything that I've read, watched, listened to in August. Let me know if you like hearing about those things. If you want me to maybe do the movies and TV and music in a separate wrap-up, I totally would understand that. It makes for a bit of a longer video, but let me know if you like it. I'm not sure. I'm not married to the format yet, so I would love to hear your opinion. I hope you have some great reading plans coming up, and I am excited to share my September TBR with you very soon. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in my next video. Keep reading great books. Bye.